Hi everyone, it's Jason at the Centre for Computing History. We're going to do another sort of little update for you behind the scenes at the museums, some of the things that have come in, possibly a couple of things that have happened. And we've got Matt behind the camera here that's going to ask us a few questions, hopefully some of the questions that you would want to ask if we're just rambling on. This week, actually probably a couple of weeks ago to be fair, we had a couple of interesting donations come in that sort of piqued my interest anyway. One of them is this Thunderboard, which, I mean, I just love the graphics on the box for a start. It's basically an Adlim and Sound Blaster compatible card. Apparently is guaranteed 100% compatible with those cards. And they're this lot of big on their guaranteed because they also guaranteed best PC sound card, full stop. Which I find quite sort of interesting and funny. But yeah, I kind of like the design of it. Done by a company called MediaVision. So MediaVision, at the time I remember buying one of their CD-ROM drives for the PC. It was quite expensive, it was the early days. Rather than just having a fairly slim drawer that comes out, the whole drawer that came out had the motor in that mechanism. And sort of came out and it was SCSI only, so you couldn't even just plug it into a standard PC, you needed a SCSI card as well. So that was MediaVision. That was my sort of first involvement with MediaVision. But yeah, I've never seen this sound card before. Like I say, Thunderboard. Sadly, the box is a little bit damaged. But this was in amongst a load of other stuff that we got, including a PC that was all a little bit battered. And the PC itself, I don't think it worked. But anyway, so there was the box and I opened it up quite excited and there was nothing much in it apart from these bits and pieces. Now that wasn't, but it was just paperwork really. So this coupon that gives you $5 off of Sierra games, I thought that was quite nice. Now this also comes free with Nova 9, Lemmings and Lexicross. Those games come with it. So there's the instructions for Lemmings. Driver disc, and Nova 9 sample game, the Thunderboard program disc, and then Lemmings and Level Lexicross there on those ones.
Are they complete games?
I think they were probably cut down. I don't know. I haven't tried these ones. I would imagine they were cut down in some way. It doesn't say that they're demo versions. Oh no, it says game sampler.
Okay.
So yeah, cut down then. Maybe a couple of levels, the first level or something. I don't know. But yeah, nice 5¼ inch floppies, bring back a few memories. It doesn't have a date. Loads of stuff that comes in of this era is not dated anywhere. They've got a copyright on there, but no date. So we're going to guess it's around late 80s. Lemmings came out in what, 90?
I think it was 91.
1991, right? So in fact, this has to be after that. So it's got to be early 90s then. And probably the graphics on the side kind of says it is.
It's funny, the product packaging for 1990 or 91, that looks to me like a box of, Ariel Rapide or
I think it's say cereal.
Yeah, like that,
a box of cereal as well. Yeah. But it does. It's just that's what first drew my attention to it. Was just the box design. Sadly, a little bit crushed in the corner there. But to round the story up, then we looked through these. No, that's a shame the board's not in there. And went through the other things. Opened up the PC, and lo and behold, the board is in the PC. So we have the original board all back together with its packaging, which is great. So it's just an 8-bit card. There, so you got 8-bit. At that sort of time, they had the little volume controls for the speakers on the back. They dropped that later. Got the joystick port there, audio in and out. 8-bit PC connector there. And then you've got sort of the OPL3 Yamaha chip that they all used. Actually, that's probably that one, to be honest. I haven't got the glasses on. Yeah, that's the Yamaha one. So that's the OPL3 chip, and then you've got your MediaVision chip there, which is Sound Blaster compatibility. So yeah, all together. I mean, I don't know how well these sold. I didn't see any at the time. I don't remember seeing the MediaVision card and saying, "Oh, I wanted one of them." Yeah, it can't be that common. It's just nice to have the whole package. You know?
The only thing I couldn't see was the little where you insert the crank to kick it into life.
How rude! It was only the early 90s. It wasn't like 1890. How old do you think I am? And I'm going to fold that up in a minute because I can't fold it. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I like that. I like PC sound cards. I don't know why. I've seen have a bit of a penchant for those at the moment. Before the museum existed and all that kind of thing, I was involved in creating sounds for those early sound cards, like the Gravis Ultrasound and various other Roland cards and whatever. So yeah, that sort of stuff. The PCs just were terrible at sound at that time. You know, you needed a sound card. So first there was I got involved with building an 8-bit sort of sound playback thing based on the Covox soundboard, speech board, whatever it was, I can't remember. But it's just a D to A connected to the printer port of the PC, and I got sound out of my PC, which is amazing. And then sort of like went on to the other boards from there, you know, the Adlib and the Sound Blaster, Gravis Ultrasound, and all that kind of stuff. But those boards are few and far between. You know, Adlib cards now are really rare. Well, uncommon, and luckily enough we've got a box one in the collection as well, but yeah, those sort of things are, because they're kind of a little bit to the side of everything, they just get forgotten about. And so it was really nice to have the Thunderboard. So that's, I think, just been put on the website, and I will rebox that again in a minute. So that was one of my interesting finds over the last couple of weeks. Another one is, this is just the box, but the Torch Cell. I hadn't seen this before, and it was interesting to me because I hadn't seen it. It's an upgrade for a BBC Micro. Torch computers were based in Cambridge, so there's a nice little link. And they built sort of business computers using the main board from a BBC Micro and putting it in a massive metal box, you know, kind of this wide, with a cup monitor built into it. Disk drives, all the thing, and what they had in there, they had another card that was basically a Z80 coprocessor that allowed the BBC to Micro to run CPM, or Torch's version of that, which is actually called CPN, and there are various reasons why it was called CPN. Yeah, they were great, and they built this business out of, you know, using BBC Micro boards to create business machines. But I'd seen various things they'd done. So they'd done the big metal box version, like I've just said, which is a BBC Micro. Then they'd done various other upgrades you could put on the BBC Micro. Then they'd done the disc pack, which was 2 disk drives and a Z80 board, and on and on and on. They actually started making their own Unix boxes after that, and they become, you know, got into quite powerful computing. But I hadn't seen this. So as far as I can see, the Torch Cell, and what I've done is, we've had this box for a long time, and it's just been the manuals. It's been hardly touched, and details about it. But this side of the box was empty. And again, we had a BBC Micro come in fairly recently, which is why one of the reasons we always take them, because you never know what's inside them. And lo and behold, inside it was the board that goes with this. Now, I think it's a pretty standard board. I think this is the same as the boards that go in all of the Torch computers and the disk pack and everything else that they did. But I know that this is the ZEP 100 board, because the BBC Micro that came in also had exactly the same manual with it. So it had this red Z100 board manual. So we've now managed to get these together as one thing again in the collection. So with its packaging, with its software, which I'll show you in a second. But basically, on the bottom of a BBC Micro, you'd have a tube port, and you'd run this very short cable from the tube port inside the BBC Micro's lid, and then you would attach this with 4 sticky feet in the lid of the BBC Micro, and this connector just goes into it. So this is all nice and sort of put inside the BBC Micro, so there's nothing, no wires hanging around outside. And then you'd put this ROM in there that would use this, and you'd have a machine that can run CPM. So if you already had the disk drives and everything, you could just go for it there. I'm guessing that this might be a little bit later in after their sort of computers based around the BBC Micro, and probably after the disc pack. They were quite expensive add-ons. This might be a cheaper version that if you already had discs, you could buy this part of it and still have yourself a business computer, effectively, that could run CPM. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And again, I was really chuffed that we did keep, you know, it was an empty box. Why did we keep it? You know, but they'd never seen one of these things before. And to be honest, the way things are around here, it's only a matter of time before the other part of it is going to turn up. But we have to catalogue that we have this box in the collection. So what happens is it goes in the collection and we put a defect against it, a little flag that says this is defective. And the defect against this empty box was, well, it's empty. It's got no board in it. And one day when another one comes in, we type into the system, have we got a ZEP 100? And it says, yes, we have. But it shows this little exclamation mark that says, we have, but it's defective. And when you look at the defect, it says no board. Brilliant. Now we've got the board, put them together, now it's complete. It takes a lot of work to do it because you seem to be sort of cataloguing things that seem not worth cataloguing because they're not even complete. But one day the other part comes around and away you go. So they are a couple of things that we had from the collection. I'll just go over some of these books. These books are absolutely mint, so I don't really want to mess them around too much.
It's really well preserved, isn't it? What year are we talking about here, roughly?
I have no idea. Let's have a look at copyright dates. Bear with me a second. Oh no, I haven't got glasses on, so it's all a blur. There you go. And as usual, and as I said, for this kind of stuff, doesn't tell you. It might be in here. Let's have a quick look. This book has not been opened. Copyright 1983 by Perfect Software. Oh, hang on, but that might be the software itself, not necessarily the board. But I'm going with 83. That sounds a fair time for it. These were obviously after the BBC Micro, so the BBC Micro was sort of 81, a couple of years, this sort of stuff, yeah. I'd go around about then. But it gave you perfect perfect filer. It gave you perfect writer, so word processor time thing, and perfect calc as well, a spreadsheet. The manuals are just perfect. So there you go. There's two things that I've found in the collection that sort of caught my eye, things that I didn't know existed to a certain extent, but also things that we've managed to pull together as well. It's really nice when you can do that. So there you go.
And of course, everything that's donated, as you say, is archived and available to be viewed on the website. Yeah,
I'm really proud of what we do on that score because there's no other computer museums do what we do, in the UK anyway. The collection is there for all to see. I don't know what the numbers we are up to at the moment. It's huge. But, when it comes in, there's a lag. We've got a lot of stuff to get through, so it doesn't necessarily go on there day one. I think the Thunderboard is on there, but the torch cell is not on there yet, or publicly visible anyway. But yeah, it gets photographed, it gets written up, it goes in a box. That box is given a number, so this is allocated to a location. But then that box as a location also has a location. So it's like, it's in box number BX 550 on shelf 27 or whatever. So we can go and find this stuff. So and it's a great thing to do. It's part of being a museum, accredited museum. But actually, it's a necessity. We started doing it way before museums accreditation, because if you don't do that, you might have this, but you might as well not, because you'll never find it again. There are so many storage locations around here. So it's just out of necessity. You've got to do this, which for us made it sort of relatively easy. I wouldn't say easy, it's still a lot of work, but it relatively easy to get accreditation because those processes were mostly already in place. We just built up on them a bit, because there is an interesting thing that you realise you're doing the right thing, but not quite enough of it. And one of those things is condition information. So when, for instance, a piece of software comes in, let's say Jet Set Willy, right? So Jet Set Willy comes in the door, you go, oh, I'm pretty sure we've got this. Type it into the system, it says, yes, we've got it. But this one's got like an extra piece of paper in it, maybe. Maybe they were the codes for unlocking the game, or, so is the one we've got this as well? And should it be there? Should it not be there? So what we knew we had this stuff, but we didn't know, the condition of it, what was the case like, what was the cassette like, was there any scrapes on the plastic, all this kind of stuff. And we didn't know what it consisted of, which meant now we have to go up into the archive, go and get that box, which is usually always at the bottom, you know, and go and get the original one that we had, and then compare them face to face. That just slowed. That's fine when you're young and you've only got 10 boxes to go through, but now there's X thousand of boxes. That's a slow process. So a museum's accreditation says you need to record condition information. So we did that. We added the condition of it, and we also added what it consists of. So this will be quite a write-up to do. This torch pack, we're going to say we've got a cardboard sleeve, we've got 3 manuals and their titles, we've got a ring-bound one here, we've got an IDC cable there, we have a ROM, inner anti-static foam base, every detail of it. And then next time another one comes in, if it ever does, we'll be able to just look on the system and compare them and not have to go and dig it out. And this sounds obvious, but it's not. We didn't do that to begin with, because who's going to sit there and put all that information in? It takes ages. So although it's great to do, it does slow things down a lot. You need more people power to throw at this. So actually, if anybody wants to come and help us, that's an open invitation. But you know, it needs detail. It needs, you know, it's got to be perfectly right. You've got to check everything, and you've got to pay attention to detail. I mean, maybe the next one of these, if another one turns up and it doesn't have sort of a bent over bit of card there and folded thing, you know, we'll have that one instead. You know, until we've got the best possible collection. So yeah, it's a long old process, but it's worth it, because then comparing things becomes so much easier, especially on software, because it's so fast moving. We get a lot of software in, yeah, it just takes a long time to do those compares. So yeah, it's good to do.
I guess if you imagine the scene at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, they had it quite easy, didn't they? Where they just had to put the Ark into the side, number it, done.
Yeah. I'm sure if they were doing it to museums accreditation standard, they would have been doing more. That was probably cut from the film though, because there was like 8 hours of some bloke sitting there typing in a load of details about whether that rock has got anything off the corner. It doesn't make good telly, you know. So yeah, let's never film that part of this. But they, you know, yeah, if they were working to museums accreditation standards, they would have been doing it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, a little bit of insight into the drudgery of recording all this stuff. But it pays off in the end. The next time around, it's so much better. But there you go.
So we recently had in this ZX Spectrum cassette called Stellar Holocaust. On some research we found out there seems to be quite an early version of an unreleased Spectrum game. It's got the date on the tape here where it says progress tape, 16th of January 86. So that's what makes us think this must be a really early version, because the only coverage we found on it was from Sinclair User in March 1987. They were telling you a bit about the story, that it's a sci-fi adventure written by Bob Shaw. You're a sort of space bounty hunter and you crash land on a planet, and you have to find the last working spaceship on there to get off there. And that's all we know about the game. We don't really know if it's a platform or an action or an adventure or even a puzzler. But then the next article we found about it was March the following year, 88, where it was just telling us about the cancellation. And we don't really have anything between that. So that's all we know. And we've got this little printed cover here. We don't know if that's artwork from the game or not.
So it could be the only copy in existence.
It really could be. It's certainly, well, it's very likely the only copy of this precise version. We haven't imaged it yet, but when we do, our Patreon supporters will be the first to know about it. I should say as well, it was being worked on by Icon Software as part of Lothlorien at the time, and it was going to be published by A&F Software. Another piece of software we had in was Sooty and Sweep for the Spectrum. We already had it for the Commodore 64, which is also alternative software published. But it was really nice to have this one too, because we collect for all different platforms, and it's nice that this one also has a Software Plus price sticker on for $2.99. I mean, I loved Sooty and Sweep, so that's what made me really excited about this. I think they're adorable. I was part of the Sooty fan club, and I didn't really know there was any Sooty games. I played a lot of kids games on the Amiga, like Postman Pat and that kind of thing, but if I knew there was a Sooty, I probably would have had it. But I just found it a little bit odd that in the artwork, I haven't played it yet, but you can see that they have legs, which is a bit puzzling because they're puppets. No, they're not puppets, they just don't have legs.
They could appear in the children's books and other ephemera as having legs.
Yeah, maybe. I never really thought about it. I never really saw that, so I didn't get disturbed as a child. And that's just a few of the donations we've had in recently to the Centre for Computing History.